Howdy, friends. Welcome to another show. I'm going to be reviewing a few things from PineCreek and touching back with, getting back with the short that I released. It was my first short, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how YouTube does this. I think it's automatically categorized as a short as long as it's 60 seconds or less. But I swear that there's shorts out there that are longer than that. I don't know how that happens. So I don't know if maybe that's like you got to do shorts for a certain amount of time before you get permission to do slightly longer ones. So anyway, that was my first one, and in it, I posed a question to Doug, and I'm going to be getting back into that one in this show. 4 questions actually, and I'm still waiting for a response. I haven't gotten one. I don't expect one. He did go live today, and he was doing a review of Trump was on a podcast, I think, called the Allin Podcast. So Doug was reviewing that. So he did touch on that. He was scrubbing through. I was trying to listen to it while I worked, but I couldn't, keep listening to it. I'd have to pause it or rewind or whatever. And he gets into immigration. So maybe he does. I don't know if anybody saw it, let's see, I'll have to get in there and watch the rest of it. But as far as I know, he hasn't responded directly to those questions. One person did, and he said yes to all in the comments for it. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm going to go over that first, and in that, I'm going to lay out kind of why I asked that. So let's say hello to everybody here that's showing up for the live. Michael Deaton, thank you for being here, and thanks for the reminder. Anamorphic Mind was first. Congrats. I wish I had gifts, but I don't. Cutlery Doug is here tonight. The night we finally figure out Doug's method of correctitude avoidance. I mean, well, I'll get into that. I'm going to answer that question as soon as I get done here. Tux TV, good to see you. Optical Duck 2, hello. God equals the square root of -1. Tip of the cap to Jeff. Good to see you. Let's see. Cocos, I was just about to sleep, but well, good evening. Don't let my show keep you up. Just turn it off. Your sleep's more important. You could always watch this later. Let's see. Some guy named Bob. Looking forward to that debate. Hopefully it's only a minor show. The presidential one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to covering it with JL. He asked me about it today. It was kind of impromptu. So he's got it scheduled. So after I get done with this, I'm going to, probably put up a post. If not a community post, I'm definitely going to be tweeting his links to it. So, but yeah, I should be a guest on that. I don't know how many guests he's going to have, but it should be fun. So, all right, I think everybody's here. And Daniel Cooper, good to see you. All right, so yeah, getting back into what happened before. So I asked Doug in the short 4 questions, and it was, does he believe that immigrants? Oh God, how are the 4? How are they worded? It was, are they a drain on the economy? Do you believe that they bring crime with them? Do you believe that they lead to a proliferation of drugs? And then there was another one. Why am I not remembering what it is? But when I asked about that, the important thing about that is when you ask a question like, do you believe? There's no right or wrong answer to that. What they believe is what they believe. But you can be dishonest about what you believe and what you don't believe. And that was sort of the point, because Doug, for a long time, when he talks about these issues, he tends to be fairly blunt about this kind of stuff. At least he seems slightly consistent in not caring if he looks bad or not. If he's running down an issue, the problem is that the one way that I think he wants to come across is that he's willing to talk about anything, but I don't know that he's actually willing to. And I'm being kind of semantic here, kind of nitpicky. He's not willing to engage in an informed debate, because he's demonstrated that he's not really all that willing to read into this stuff. Great proof of this was he had a very long conversation about trans issues with Arden and Dr. Ben on that show, The Line. And they went over several issues that they had with the way he addresses certain issues, some of the concepts that he's talking about, some misconceptions he has about these things when he's talking about them. And I think it wasn't even a week later, he was back to producing content where he was sort of doing kind of, for shock value kind of shorts and stuff to, showing that either he ignored what they told him or it didn't really get through. So it's not great. So there's either an inability or just a lack of willingness to learn about it, or if he really is learning about it, he's not really, reflecting on it and then, responding with any real change. At least not that I've seen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody who's talked about him or dealt with him about that issue can tell me where maybe his stance has changed, but I haven't seen it. Good to see Uncle Charlie. Jay, hello. I do need to ask you about something, because there's a guy that has been really active commenting on one of my older videos that he's super annoying. He thinks axioms are propositions. I think axioms have to be justified the same as propositions. He's a nutter. Let's see. Are you doing the Friday stream with JL? I don't know. He hasn't asked me about that. I have a feeling that JL has the idea of getting a rotating group of us to come in. I don't think he likes to exceed more than 2 guests. So I don't think I'll be invited this Friday, which is fine, because I'm going to be doing, the Thursday thing with him tomorrow. If he's doing, and I don't know, maybe he won't do, if he's doing that live on Thursday, maybe he won't be doing his usual Friday live. I'm not sure. Spooky's here. Hello. Let's see. So yeah, anyway, getting back to the topic, that I think is sort of the problem with PineCreek. And I think that he would answer yes to most of those questions. He believes that immigrants increase crime, that they take that was the other one, that they actually take jobs from current citizens, or they reduce the number of jobs available to current citizens, just sort of as, like, I don't know, kind of like an intuitive sense of math, that they increase the proliferation of drugs, and they increase crime. So crime, drugs, which are kind of the same, but they're slightly different, because there's sort of violent crime and property crimes and things like that happen. But there's also the drug smuggling element that gets laid on there. And there's reasons why that these don't work. Like, it's, if somebody believes that, fine. But you should ask them then at that point, what makes you think that that's the case? I mean, something convinced you. You have a belief of this. What convinced you that that's the case? And it might be Fox News. It might be something they read in the newspaper, but a lot of it's not great. And so normally what ends up happening, trying to break this down probably too slowly, is that a dork like myself, who reads maybe too much, because I've taken some flack for it in the past. People still do that, make fun of people for reading. If you read about issues about this kind of stuff, it can be weird when you enter into a conversation with somebody like Doug, who wants to engage in, like, hey, let's do some thought experiments. Like, you're the person in charge of the border, and you got to pick between 2 guys, and the only thing you know about them is one has no money and one has 5 million. Who do you let in? As if, from that, like, and my rationale for that remains, like, those are the only 2 things I know about them, and I'm in charge of the border. Well, I don't know the intentions of either of these men, good or bad, and I'm not supposed to assume them. I don't know anything about them, except one has lots of money and one has none. Given that I don't know anything else about them, I'm more inclined to let in the one with no money, because he doesn't have enough money to do any harm to the country. The one with $5 million, I don't know what he's doing with that. Doug then added in another thing. Oh, well, you don't have to worry about that. The money was earned legitimately there. To which I always have to wonder, like, well, what about him earning it legitimately in the country he came from makes it necessitates that he will only do good with it going forward now that he's come to our country? I don't understand how you'd make that kind of leap. So a lot of Doug's sort of common sense kind of exercises always kind of and maybe it's because I've been doing this kind of stuff for too long. But I don't know. I always overthought things, even as a kid. So when somebody gives me that, I'm always like looking for it. People are like, "Oh, you're just avoiding traps, Spatchcock." Like, yeah, I don't want to trap myself. I don't want to get myself stuck in some kind of bias, because I did for a very long time. I was trapped in the conservative, echo chamber for a very long time, and I would rather not go back to that. So when I hear people talk like this, and it's sort of designed to get you to I just want your honest gut reaction to how this works. Like, yeah, miss me with that. Your honest gut reaction is something you should push right down. You should be dead inside about that. Kill your gut, to the best you can. when you're making slow, thoughtful decisions, I should say. Gut reactions can be good and helpful in certain circumstances, but there's different modes of thinking. And when we're trying to reflect on something complicated, slow down and consider your biases. It's a good idea. Asking somebody to just, I'm going to give you a crazy situation, react now, lib. And then from that, they can figure out whether or not you're irrational or not. It's just like, it's a waste of time. So, what I wanted to do then was to actually get into this, and then we're going to get into some shorts later. But one of the things that comes up is like I will end up engaging in with PineCreek's questions, his Q&A. But the thing that I should be doing is pointing out, like, Doug, is a fear of immigration informing these thought experiments? Are you coming from an assumption that immigrants lead to increased crime, increased drug importation, a decrease in available jobs to current citizens, an overall drainage of social welfare and social insurance programs that are publicly funded? Like, is this what's informing this? If it's yes to any combination of those, then you have to figure out, like, okay, so what if I told you that what's grounding your assumptions and then serving as sort of the muse for your imaginative hypotheticals is wrong-headed from the jump? And that's when you have to get into things like, let me just present this other screen here. All right, we'll bring this up here. I'll keep this kind of small for now. So there's this piece here. This individual's name is John Washington. He wrote this article back in February of this year, 11 Arguments for Open Borders. Now, take this for what it's worth. This is sort of a distillation of his book, The Case for Open Borders, which just came out. You can get that if you're interested in it. He's got some pretty good statistics. This is an interesting thing. But I just wanted to roll through some of the basic some of the 11 points that he hits. Borders have not always been. So he goes through some of the history of that. Immigrants don't steal jobs, they create them. Immigrants don't drain government coffers. Borders don't stop crime and violence, they engender crime and violence. That's an interesting one, especially if you look at some of the statistics that, or some of the violence that happened as soon as we started, getting more and more strict about who could cross, imposing taxes and things like that. Immigrants don't threaten communities, they revitalize them. Migrants rejuvenate. Open borders doesn't mean a rush to migrate. That's a good one. Closed borders are unethical. Opening borders is economically smart. Open borders are an urgent response to the climate crisis and the right to migrate / the right to remain. So I'd encourage you, if you're interested in this, obviously I'm not going to read it all to you. That would be insane and very, very pretentious. Take a look at that. If you're interested in kind of getting a different, now obviously this is the informed opinion of a pretty well-researched dude, but he's obviously writing this as a summary of his book. And this is a left-leaning magazine, so be forewarned. I'm in case that bothers you. But it's an interesting way of kind of getting you to maybe reflect on things that you might not have known about. So there's that. Then there's this from the Cato Institute: Why Legal Immigration is Nearly Impossible. And this is from June of last year. And this is one of their kind of like, I don't know if they call these like a primer or what. But this is pretty interesting too. There's an overview of the laws on this. Just for a teaser, today fewer than 1% of people who want to move permanently to the U.S. can do so legally. Fewer than 1%. And so most of the stuff that we end up dealing with as far as what the issues on the news, that these are people that are, a lot of the stuff is in terms of refugee crisis. These are not people who are planning to move and they have any kind of process where they can quickly step into it. That's not what's happening. It's border crisis issues. It's refugee crises, people fleeing dangerous countries, a dangerous homeland, that kind of thing. So take a look at that. That's also in my, these are all in resources links for the description to this video. So, inform yourself about that one. And then Want to Solve the Border Crisis, Legalize Immigration. This is from David J. Byer. This is from December of last year. Granted, this is commentary also coming out of the Cato Institute, but there are some very good links in here and some resources. So take a look at those. And that's just for starters. There have been good articles written about this for the last 10 years. They usually pop up in places like the New Yorker, the Nation, Mother Jones, places like that, because oftentimes those ones will want to feature this as a counter narrative and never really gets into the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is more interested in like playing up the crisis as much as they can. So yeah, if you're interested, I really recommend that you do that. Take a look at that. or don't. You don't have to. I'm not your boss. I'm not your parents. I can't, make you eat your broccoli. But I think, and obviously take them with a grain of salt. If you've got issues with them, let me know. Take a look at the facts being used in there. Most of them that I saw, the information I saw was sound, and it's stuff that I actually had to kind of dust off parts of my memory to remember, because I started looking into this back in, oh God, 2005, I think, because immigration would come up then. And I remember it came up in the 90s when I was becoming interested in politics, and I was more right wing. And I followed the same kind of like hyperventilating, we've got to stop people from crossing the border at all. That was my mode when I was 16, 17 years old. I started to question that in my late 20s. I started reading about it, and a lot of these points were being made then. So this is not new information. And it is backed up by some pretty good statistical and demographic evidence. So that's that. Now, I guess what I'm going to do here is probably get into... we're going to take a look into PineCreek Doug's shorts. I know that's a bad way to say that, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to be kind of careful about which ones I jump into here. I think I kind of want to do these in order. Let's do the one, since we're warming up. Let's start this one with one on immigration. First, let me take a look here and say hello to a few people. Let's see. Kill your gut should be your new catchphrase. I mean, I literally need to kill mine. I need to lose weight. And Michael is here. Good to see you, Michael. Coco says, recently a guy ran over a biker in Poland and he was on drugs, but also he happened to not be Polish. So, of course, it's immigrants' fault. Yeah, all of them. It's all of their fault because that guy did that. Yeah. I think PineCreek has a very simple meritocracy that is simply based on how liquid a person is. Yeah, kind of. Because I'm pretty sure if you talk to PineCreek long enough, you can be wealthy the wrong way. I'm just thinking that there's no limit to his snobbiness. So you got a late notice. It's fine. I mean, that YouTube is just late. Let's see. Pragmatic Crystals here. Thank you very much for that shout out and that reminder. I appreciate that. Let's see. Fenton Mully is here. Doug is so dedicated to free speech. He has blocked nearly everyone in this chat. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm blocked now after the conversation that we had when he just dumped me. Less than 1%. Doug and his ilk would say it's too high. Yeah, and that's sort of the thing. So now, see, but I mean, keep in mind that's legal immigration. It's less than 1%. But the number of people that we've seen swell and cross into the borders, it's not. It's one part of immigration in that they're fleeing their country and they're requesting asylum here. And oftentimes, asylum doesn't necessarily mean they're looking to stay here forever, but they are going to be semi-permanent because they don't know when things are going to turn around. And in many cases, they may want to go back home, but they can't because the political situation down there, their government's out to get them or something. Or maybe there was some kind of natural disaster and the resources and logistics in that country, they can't stay or they're going to die. So yeah, they don't even have the ability to kind of like bootstrap that stuff. There's just no way to do it. So they leave with the hopes of maybe returning. But that's part of that. One of the statistics that comes up, it was done at a Pew Research poll that's worth noting. And it's in one of those articles. A research poll was done that showed that 600 to 700 million people, when polled, and this is an estimate from worldwide, would be interested in coming to the United States, to becoming a citizen of the United States. But that just got to interested, right? So as they started to break that down, there were things that would start to winnow that number out. Like, would you seriously want to move away from your country? They're like, it would be nice to be a citizen of the United States, but I wouldn't want to leave my homeland. Okay, so you scrape some people out there. I would do it if I were alone, but I have my family and I could never leave them. So you remove that. Like, I would do it, but my job is here and I wouldn't want to try to adjust to that economy over there. And I'd be afraid that I would fail. So those people get, it sounds like a nice idea, but I won't do it. Anyway, too long didn't read. You get down to the actual people with the means, motivation, and willingness to actually go. It'd be around 20 million. 20 to 21 million out of 600 to 700 million that expressed a general interest in some way. You get down to 20 to 21 million people. Now, I'm sure PineCreek was like, we cannot take 21 million people into this country over any period of time. Well, let's put that into context. Population usually is felt in terms of what they call population density. And the United States has a remarkably low population density as far as developed, wealthy countries go. To put it into perspective, the United States could quadruple its current population and still not be as dense in terms of people per square kilometer as the nation of France. We could quadruple it. And what we're talking about from the other figures, kind of, rounding up and kind of speculating based on interest, ability, willingness to do it, they'd show up if it wasn't so hard to get through the process. 21 million people. That's it. So that kind of breaks down this myth of like, one, we don't have the room. We do. And two, if you open the borders, the entire world comes in and just sinks the United States. Like, nope, they're not all that interested to come here. That's just assuming that we're so awesome, everybody wants to be here. I've traveled. I know for a fact that is not the case, right? So, me, Scott, I hope you're having a great day. It's been going pretty good. It was a work day, but it's not bad. Seems like he's experimenting with saying nonsense and seeing the effect of the views. I don't want to look into Doug Shorts. Well, we're going to do that anyway. Bro says, my coworker is frothing about the border. Mind you, this is a guy who hates government and government regulations, yet makes damn good money making sure hospitals are up to code. That's interesting. Also, the other thing that's interesting is that most of the articles that I shared with you, many of the same experts end up pointing to the fact that the border crisis is not caused by the immigrants or even the refugees, even though the refugee populations are, I think, larger than the number of people who are just trying to immigrate here because they want to. The refugee situation, people seeking asylum, has gotten higher. And to be fair, there is something to be said in the argument that some of the people are just doing the asylum thing because they want to immigrate here, and the asylum thing is the easiest way to do it. They can get in, they can declare asylum. The only problem with that is I think less than 25% of them actually get approved to stay after their court hearing. And the average wait time on the court hearing is 4.25 years. And they need to hit the ground running and start working right away. But this is something that I learned. Most of them cannot work in any job other than an illegal way of earning money because the government forces them to file and process a waiver to work as an asylum seeker, which on average takes at least 6 months to approve. So for those first 6 months, if they're prompt on their paperwork, they're probably waiting anywhere from get their stuff approved so that they can legally work as an asylum seeker waiting on their court date. That's not due to their fault. That's the way we administer their passage here. And I think most of that kind of crap was passed in the 80s. So it's just a way to sort of like, yeah, we do have an asylum process, but you wouldn't like it if you did it. Red Fang's here. Great to see you. Yuki Okami's here. Very good to see you. Jeff's a perv. You can't keep up with. Let's see. We all know that most right-wingers, Doug included, are against brown people immigrating here. They tend not to question Caucasian immigrants. Funny that. I'm going to push back on that, Daniel. I don't think that he's so much as racist as he's classist. If they don't make enough money, he doesn't want them here. He wants hard-working people and by hard-working, that means moneyed and propertied. Because he has time to, he does his job. I don't think he's working that hard in terms of hours. He has time to go online. He has time to do his live shows. He has time to do his poker games. He has time to do his golf. He played in this previous video. I played 26, 27 holes the other day. Like, okay, I don't know how many hours he's working during a week, but if he's at home in an air conditioned place doing office work and stuff, and I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying it's easy for somebody to say, we want quote unquote hard workers. You're going to be hard pressed to, deal with that when they find out what you do for a living and they, show you the hole in their, their leather work boots. So, yeah. Don't forget to hammer that like button, friends. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, Bree's here. Good to see you, Bree. Let's see. Who did I miss? Bob Brooks is here. That SNL skit about the migrant caravan was hilarious. I don't think I saw that one. I should take a look at that one. All right. I think I got everybody. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share. Let's get into. That's not it. Okay, here we go. Shorts ahoy. So let's see here. This one was from, I don't know how old these are. The shorts player in a browser is actually kind of strange. So here we go. Oh, usual rules apply. If you can't hear this, yell at me. It should be turned up all the way. Here we go.
The governor of New York, a Democrat, saying, "Don't come here." Those are her exact words. Don't come here. And the mayor of New York saying, "This is going to ruin our city." I mean, if I didn't know who was talking, I would have thought that would be Republicans.
But there is a limit to what we can do. We're at our limit.
In my life, have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to? I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
His immigration policy was a mistake, right? I get.
What was his policy? I mean, he's talking about Biden here, but his Biden's only real change that I've seen in his immigration policy was that he lifted the Emergency Act for the COVID plan, the pandemic response, and that removed Title 42. You can't just declare Title 42 if it doesn't have any grounds if you don't have a pandemic going on. And so that was a mistake, I guess. But there was nothing he could do for it. I guess he could just, and this is what I've mentioned this before, I guess he could have just decided, you know what, pandemic forever, no one come here. We're always sick.
The theory of the extreme left, we're a land of immigrants, let everyone come in, we all came as immigrants.
No, you don't. This is stupid. You don't have to be a leftist to be pro or open borders, but generally a leftist is because of economic theory. You know, if you really understand how leftists work, it's not as extreme as these guys are thinking. They're the ones that are reacting extremely to this because they think, wait, you just let anybody who wanted to come to America in here. That means we'll get flooded. It's like, this is not, we are not the same country that we were after World War II, where everybody wanted to be here. Most of those countries are places where a lot of Americans would rather go, but can't. So this is always to me that's the extreme take on this. Like, oh, you just don't understand. We would just fill up too quick. Everybody would be here, and there's just no room. Like, no, they wouldn't. Best estimate that I've seen, between 20 and 22 million. And obviously, you'd probably that would be over a course of a long time.
I get it, but how you do it makes all the difference in the world, right? And to just open the
right, it's as if open border policy might be possible.
Borders with no plan, you don't know where they go.
He didn't open the borders. It's still damn near impossible. The only thing that changed, Cuomo was so dumb. The only thing that changed was the removal of the Title 42 portion of and along with all the other emergency response stuff. That's what did it. So, instead of them being able to use Title 42 to just immediately kick them back into Mexico, which the rate of return entries on that skyrocketed. Most people in immigration studies said it was an unparalleled failure, because they sent them back to Mexico. They can't stay there, and they can't afford to go back where they came from. So they would just try to sneak back in again. It was a remarkably stupid idea. It's a little bit like the fingers in the holes, in the leaky bathtub or the leaky wall.
So you don't know who's going to pay for them, costing New York City a fortune. So who did you even help, right?
The governor of New York.
So yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff. And I don't disagree with the ones that are saying that they need to do something different when they're talking about cities, because that is a concern. The city shouldn't be on the hook for trying to help when it's a national crisis. I'm sympathetic to somebody like Greg Abbott saying, hey, we don't need to deal with this just as a state, because we're just one state and this needs to be federal. Problem with that is that he's generally manipulating the issue for political gain by trying to say it's their fault, and if the more people come, Texas will explode. And it's like, no, the bigger cities away from you are going to be the ones that suffer from this, because there's an influx of refugees. There's a way to get around all this kind of stuff. It requires a federal response. We're not going to get one. So, Jefferson, is there a threshold of ethnic cultural homogeneity that you'd value, the preserving of which you meant moving you off of your immigration position, i.e. Japan? No, the problem with Japan isn't that they are that they have an ethnic or cultural homogeneity. It's a lie. They insist that it's there. There are a lot of immigrants there, but they actively try to like force that stuff down. And it's kind of, you can tell that it's like cosplay. So I don't know what you mean. Like, is there a threshold of ethnic or cultural homogeneity that I'm an American that, and who grew up in an area where the best food that we have is from the Middle East. I mean, I'm from Michigan. The Detroit area has some of the best Middle Eastern food you can get in the country, from what I understand. In fact, the only Michelin-starred restaurant I think we have is a Lebanese place. So that I think serves a traditional breakfast. So, to me, there's nothing more Michigan than shawarma. It's already mixed, and I like that. I like being able, and you know who really loves that? The Japanese. They love their cigarettes. They love their strong coffee. They love German beer, Scotch whiskey, English houses, and French women, and French food. All right, let's.
A Democrat saying,
the Democrats' star witness, she's sitting there and she's talking.
Politically,
I think that's one of those ones where they're complaining about somebody not being woke enough, or the words don't work, or something like that. This one is Trump slams Biden action protecting undocumented spouses.
I don't think the American people are in a pro-amnesty mood right now. You look at what Trump is.
Do you think that people will be in a pro-amnesty mood if there was a guy from the town that I grew up in, when Trump was in there and he was deporting people and really going after them? The town raised a fund because a long-term resident of that town, he'd been married to a woman there for years. She was born there, I think, was originally from that town. He was from either Mexico or El Salvador, and he was getting kicked out. It didn't matter that they'd been married for 12 years. In fact, if you look at the way, like if somebody's married and they found out that they married and they snuck in or something like that, or they broke some kind of weird little rule, he was going to get thrown back, and they were going to have to remain separated for at least 20 years before he could get back in the legal way. Also, she probably wasn't going to be able to move with him because the federal government doesn't have to recognize her giving up her citizenship. So it was a giant cluster. So the idea that, like, it's easy for them to say, like, I can't believe they're letting all these people in. No, these people are already here. He's just saying that we're not going to deport a husband or a wife, back to their home country. They've been married to an American citizen. We're not going to do that. I don't see why that's a big deal. Jim Bob up in here elevating discord to the viability of ethnostates. Exactly. Yeah, I spent a decent amount of time studying in one of the most non-viable ethnostates you can. Well, I mean, it's viable only because they're basically Hello Kitty crap now. But Japan is sort of is constantly up its own ass dealing with that ethnostate crap to the point where they make issues about, like, I'll put it to you this way: if you send. There was an earthquake response, and we sent medicine there. The United States sent medicine to Niigata, I think, when it got hit with a really bad earthquake. And I flew there. I ended up there right as the stuff was happening. I wasn't in that area. I was in the South, but it was going on, and I kept hearing in the news they were turning down the Tylenol and the aspirin because the amounts had been calibrated for white bodies and therefore would kill the Japanese. If you went to one of their pharmacies, you could find a hangover cure with an unsafe amount of Tylenol in it. It was absolutely, their energy drinks usually contained some kind of Tylenol or aspirin plus nicotine plus a shitload of caffeine, maybe some guarana, and then a bunch of B vitamins. It tasted like a Flintstones vitamin soaked in a puddle of alcohol and cigarette ash. It was absolutely revolting, but it was a way to get the salarymen, up and perky first thing in the morning. So yeah, I don't even know why I went into this complete thing, but the idea of their ethno state is entirely it's a show. It's a complete show. And anytime they tried to make policy, they still deal with this today. They can barely get anything done without talking about what it's going to do to them ethnically. It's exhausting. You make those sound so tasty. Don't get one. Actually, I'm pretty sure they're completely illegal here. There's no way that
proposing. There's a lot of polling that shows majority support for what Trump is saying, including among Hispanics in the United States of America. They
what
like
about
what
detention?
Trump is saying
But
about
Scott,
cracking down on illegal immigration.
What about
No.
detention camps and mass deportations?
Has majority support in the United States and among Hispanic voters right
No.
now. It's
That's
recent
not
polling. You
true,
can look
Scott.
it up. No,
No.
it is at Maria. It is absolutely
not
true.
true.
When we get off the air, you're going to be embarrassed, but it's absolutely true.
I will send you the actual polling from pollsters who actually know how to poll on this
You're
issue.
going to be
Scott.
embarrassed.
I will send this
Well,
to you
we are
after,
showing
after our
the
segment.
CBS poll, 53%.
I have issues with that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But I do want that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But I do want that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But I do want that poll because of exactly what I'm saying. But
The way politically,
I'm a gay woman.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know what to do about that one. That was his last immigration one, and that one was just dumb. I'm not those polls. It's hilarious to me to see anybody try to use like a CNN poll, because what are the sample rates on those groups? Sometimes they are not very big. Over the next like 15 to 30 years, what do conservatives expect us to do with all the displaced people from climate change? Well, it's not a thing, so they don't have to worry about it. There won't be any people displaced because of climate. Even though one of the big things that was pushing people out of Guatemala the last time there was a large cohort fleeing there was because, I don't know if many of you know this, but Guatemala grows quite a bit of the green beans that we import in the United States, or at least they used to. But after a couple of like really bad harvest cycles, there were farmers that were just not working. And so they came up here. It was because of agricultural reasons, not climate change, because, food doesn't require the weather and the climate to grow, I guess. I think the only way that you can try to do that is if you establish those vertical farm systems, those skyrise hydroponic farm systems, which I think are cool. But I don't know if those are exactly energy efficient. Some designs might be, others may not. Yeah, I paused at the wrong part. She's saying I'm a gay woman, but yeah, that's right there. So yeah, modern polling is paid for response polling and is not reliable. Yeah, it really isn't. And in one of these opinion surveys too, it's asking them like, hey, what do you think about what he's doing? Depending on the context of how they're presenting it, and if the person's completely ignorant, they're just going to be like, do you favor this or don't you? I'm like, yeah, I favor it. Okay, well, what is it? He's going to let everybody in? No, stupid. That's not what it was at all. But it's too late. They already gave the response. She's guilty of this. This is Jillian Michaels, one of America's personal trainers from America. The Biggest Loser, one of the worst shows for dealing with obesity and weight gain and food issues and everything, just about everything else. I remember one of the seasons. I watched one episode of one season, and it was the beginning episode, and they have all these people like 300 pounds and up, and the first thing they decide to do is punish them with a run down the coastal highway of California. One of them ended up needing an emergency vehicle, and one of them, they end up giving their checkups after forcing them to take a run, and they find out, oh, you know what? You're actually a diabetic. Like, maybe you should have given them the physicals before they went out there. So I'm a little bit hesitant about the informed opinions of, Jillian Michaels. But here we go. This is something that we'll have to get into. Totally different than immigration, but worth taking a look at. So,
Woman. My mom's a Jew. My dad's an Arab. I have a black kid. I hold 1 million cards in your game of woke victimology poker. And when I leave California,
I don't know what that means.
maybe you've lost your fucking mind.
Language.
Just maybe.
This is a monetized channel.
I mean, I could be liberal. I could go there with you. But I grew up this way.
I believe that she's a liberal. I'm left wing and I don't like liberals. This is why.
But when it's like, oh, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pass a law for LGBTQ rights
Brace
so
yourselves.
that 24-year-old men can sleep with 14-year-old boys and not have to register as a sex offender because it's just not fair to the gays. I'm like, what? It's what? Like, I don't know if you saw that one. That was like, I think early 2020 when they passed that law.
Mhm.
And it's, so I was like, if a 24-year-old man touches my 14-year-old son, I will get a gun and take matters into my own.
You can kind of see, take the matter into my own. You can kind of see the host there.
I'm a gay woman.
Getting a little bit scared. What? So the law that she's referring to was written into law, I think, in the end of 2020. It got passed into 2021, or I think it went into effect January 2021. It was Senate Bill 145, I think, or whatever they call it out there. Anyway, 145 was a revision to legal language that had been in the state of California for a long time. The language, the original language that existed was that if state judges in the state of California were adjudicating a case that involved sexual and inappropriate relations between two individuals, one who's a minor and one who is a legal adult. We're not even taking into account age ranges or anything like that, but that's the issue that you're dealing with. Depending on the circumstances of the individuals involved and the circumstances surrounding their relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if the relationship was between two heterosexual individuals, a male and a female, and the sexual relationship that they engaged in was normal, meaning P to V, good old fashioned meat and potatoes, mommy, baby making penetration, the judge had discretion as to whether or not the perpetrator would have to put them register for the sex offender list and be on it for life. Because if back when this language was in there, once you were on the sex offender list in the state of California, you were on it for life, my understanding. If the sexual act that was deemed inappropriate by the perpetrator of this was anything other than P and V, stuff, the old-fashioned stuff, if it was anything like oral, anal, anything that you'd basically see in a legal textbook that would talk about anti-sodomy laws. The anti-sodomy laws usually had the category of other fun stuff. There was the stuff that you used to get pregnant. The one thing that you used to get pregnant, they wouldn't take into account any interesting poses or anything. They didn't care. P and V, that's fine. Any of this stuff over here, automatic registration to the sex offender list for life. Judge has no discretion over it. All they changed with 145 was they gave the judges the same discretion in sexual relations that involved those acts between people who may not be appropriately matched in terms of legal age as they gave to issues where it was just, this straight up kind of heterosexual missionary position stuff. That's it. She does not know what she's talking about. It does not do anything about the judge having to not prosecute somebody for taking advantage of a younger person. So the fact that she goes into, if some guy comes after my 14-year-old son and California made it so, like, Jillian, you're crazy and you need to read a book. I know you're into exercise, but read an effing book. That's not what that is. So, yeah. I wonder why she would jump to that conclusion on it. Although my brother Jay has been having a long chat in the comments for this, which I'm not going to pull up right now, with Snake Was Right. And Snake Was Right also doesn't seem to get the law either. So, sure, I'm here for the sodomy. That one's probably getting flagged. Sodomy is fun. Yeah, this channel, this one's getting... I shouldn't have even bothered to monetize this one with this topic. But yeah, I when I saw this one, I'm like, okay, so and Doug has it written here. Hey, woke progressives, maybe you lost your effing fucking mind. So do we need to jump on the Jillian Michaels celebrity train here? She probably objects to that kind of sexual activity, but you know what I mean. Are we supposed to do that? I just, here's a liberal right here. I mean, aren't you guys a bunch of sheep? Aren't you supposed to get in lockstep? I'm confused. Follow the leader. He does this when he does the Jon Stewart ones too. Like, Jon Stewart thinks that the virus came from Wuhan. Get in line, libs. Like, why?
Wait.
I'm a gay one.
Right.
Do you think a moratorium on new?
I've never heard you talk about.
This is a good one because this is a short based on the long form stuff that he covered today. Did Trump just convert a leftist to his side? He thinks that this guy, this bespectacled individual here, which I'm not playing, I'm bespectacled with the nice tie. I like the pink tie. That he is a leftist. I don't know who this guy is, but I believe this is the Allin Podcast, and it's like 4 guys, and I think he's the liberal, and there's three conservatives. So here we go.
About this, can you please promise us you will give us more ability to import the best and brightest around the world to America?
What I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card.
Whew.
JCal, what are your big takeaways?
Well, I'm undecided, as you know.
So Trump said that. Trump's lying. There's no way they're going to go for that. In fact, I think some of the stuff that he was trying to get out, didn't one of the people they deported, it made national news. They were going to deport a guy who was a PhD, and I think he was working at a university. I don't know if he was in a teaching or a research position or both. But I believe they sent him back to Poland. And he'd been here for a long time, finished his education, had a PhD, working at a university or working in research, one of the two or both. Yep. Nope, you got to go back. So it's interesting. Has Trump evolved on this issue? Because he had no problem getting rid of people with. Is it going to matter if those people with PhDs came from quote unquote shithole countries? I don't think so.
We had a limited amount of time with him, and obviously,
JCal, just say it. Just say it. You like him. You didn't. You were. Just say it. Just say it because it's written all across your face. Just say it. You like him. You're confused.
I have some blockers.
He crushed your questions. No, he crushed your questions.
I think he did.
You asked tough questions.
You asked great questions, and he just dealt with them head on. Just admit
he lied. There's no, even if he gets in, you go look at the Heritage 2025, the 2025 plan. They don't want this. He can say this because he's running now, and these guys are sort of the pro-business, greedy lib types. I mean, even some of the more conservative ones, they're all about making money and making sure that they can get low interest rates and low taxes and low regulations so they can continue being little captains of industry. That's what they're interested in. But Trump's lying there. He's not going to be able to pull that off because the people that are going to be with him, that are going to be sort of automatically dispersed throughout all these agencies, because they've got that all set up for 2025. Should he get in, none of those people are going to be on with this policy. And when they don't, he's going to be like, oh yeah, no, I guess I won't.
Admit it. You like him. You like him. You look at him.
Well, I do like the fact that he came on the pod.
I told you like him.
I've never heard you talk about this.
So I don't know how this. I got to look into the Allin podcast to see. What little bit I saw of the live stuff they did today, this guy mentioned something about, they needed to do something about, had something to do with like buying property or something like that. And I'm like, automatic. He's not a leftist. He's a lib. So PineCreek is the atheist version of rebuke and reprove. Jill, he's getting that way. Yeah. He's trying to do the shorts to like stoke our rage, even though they just completely flop. Like none of the stuff. So I'm waiting for him to hit the target.
And those 3 things he mentioned.
Okay, brace yourselves for this. I should have put content warning in here. Content warning. Here's Doug being an asshole.
Mentions what he calls transgender insanity. If he's voted in as the next president, what will that mean to you?
We already see so many attacks on our queer community. I already don't feel safe in my own hometown, just dressed in drag like this, and it's very scary. It's very scary.
And those three things he mentioned.
Is Doug scared of transsexual people or just people in drag? Like, I don't understand. Like, I know kids whose favorite cartoon characters are monsters. Like, and some of them quite dark. I remember growing up, there were the kids, their favorite cartoon, and movie was Beetlejuice, and he was pretty repellent. The fact that he's doing this is just, I mean, I know what he's trying to do, like, oh, you're scared. I'm just wondering if Doug's kind of reflected on the fact that if those kids get scared by somebody who's got a lot of makeup on, that's one thing. Do you think that's what she's scared of? Or do you think she's maybe scared of, well, we won't talk about Wyoming? Is it maybe something like that? Or any of the other number of people in this particular community that suffer horrible consequences because people react in fear and disgust rather than thinking. This is the kind of shit. In fact, I'll probably just report this. Report. Let's see. Yeah. There it is. I don't know if you're actually supposed to show this live, but there we go. It's actually the whole thing. There we go. So.
But then for those of you that...
the last one. This one is also, that's Charlie Kirk from, is it Turning Point? He's usually going to colleges and having arguments, super smart, arguments with lots of college kids about why the United States is a Judeo-Christian thing and ethno-realities should be a thing and blah, 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 blah. You need to show that meme that Nicholas shared with you on Discord. No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, but I better not. You know the one I mean. Yeah, I know exactly. That's actually a female drag queen. She was born female, Brigitte Bandit. I mean, you know what, Dustin? Do you think PineCreek cares? He's just playing around with the fact, like, it's funny. She's talking about being afraid. Look how scary she'd be to kids. Like, yeah, what they're afraid about is very, very different, Doug. Very different. And Doug probably doesn't know any better, even though he's been told. They find the most extravagant drag queen and interview her about trans people as if she is one. It annoys me. Yeah, not only that, I mean, you could say this is nut picking, except they picked she's not a nut, she's more like an apricot or something. It's just like, what are you doing? What what is this? Turning Points USA was given the whole hand for Trump's government efforts. It's hilarious. They have no track record of anything but failure in GOTC. Yeah. Pragmatic Crystal's got one up from an AP News. Charlie Kirk, right-wing provocateur, Gen Z. Yeah. Yeah, take a look at some of his stuff. He is not great. So here he is on the Whatever podcast, which is sort of one of these red-pilled bullshit things. Andrew Wilson is on here every once in a while. And here he is bringing up just a hard-hitting point to people. Pay attention to this one. This one's awful.
That said you were feminists, do you see any inconsistency between saying that you want equality, but you're cool with sending men to run into machine guns to protect your society? Does anyone wrestle with that?
How do you reconcile that? Yeah.
But it's easy at times to bash the patriarchy. Taylor Swift just today was one of her songs, F the patriarchy, and everyone in the concert screams that, right?
Can we Google that, Nick?
Well, it's a lyric of one of her songs of some like name tag that was dropped, but she says it like a rallying cry, F the patriarchy. When it comes down to it, it's like you're cool throwing men to the front lines of war, but not yourself.
So the only thing women need to do to not be hypocritical in his eyes in terms when they're critical of the patriarchy is go get shot. First of all, about what I think on average 21%, I think it's 21% of the armed forces are women at this point. They do serve in combat. I mean, it's still majority male, but maybe that's not the military's fault. But consider what you got going on in the military. But there are a lot of women that are on the front lines in combat. He's talking about the draft. And then he's like got a panel of women here who usually get like, plied with quite a bit of alcohol. And then he's like, well, hey, who are you hypocrites to say that you're about the patriarchy when you expect men to go fight wars for you? You dumb motherfucker. Women fight wars for me. They fight wars for you. Did Charlie Kirk serve? Can anybody dig that up? I know women that served in the military and in some dangerous capacities as well. Either combat medic. They, hell, just being a driver in a war zone. And he's just like, well, you know what? If he's talking about what he's insinuating here is that because women aren't part of selective service, the draft, then like a lot of these girls probably don't know what that is, why it doesn't affect them. They don't have to register for selective service because it's not something that Congress has passed. But that doesn't mean there aren't women in combat fighting wars for the rest of us who didn't serve. This is the stupidest non-point I think I've ever heard this guy, even as a non-point, he failed to land it. Like, I think I've spotted some hypocrisy here. I'm like, no, you haven't. You failed to make sense. May God have mercy on your soul. So what have we learned? Doug's watching the Allin Podcast. He's doing more fear-mongering of drag queens for some reason. He's missing the point about a lot of various forms of rhetoric. I guess he's critical of Biden, saying that people's spouses who have been married here for a while shouldn't get thrown out of the country. Maybe he wants that. And he's been watching the Whatever podcast, and he's throwing Mr. Potato Head up here as an example of somebody like interesting question to feminists on the patriarchy. It would be an interesting question if he actually like prefaced it and maybe put it into some context. Once you put it into context, it's stupid. Hey, why aren't you eligible for the draft? It's your fault. So because you're not eligible for the draft, due to no fault of your own, you're hypocrites when you criticize the patriarchy. That is the dumbest attempt at an own that I've seen this week. It's just stupid. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up. That's about an hour. So I'm going to get out of here. I've got a tasty dinner waiting in the pot, so I'm going to dig into that. I hope the rest of you have a great day a great evening, and I will be back. Like I said, I'm going to be a guest tomorrow on J.L. Warren's channel. We're going to be covering the debate. That should be fun. I might actually need to drink some late night caffeine for that one because I have a feeling, Gramp and Grampy are going to make me, nod off a couple of times. So maybe an energy drink is going to be in store, or just enough alcohol to get me good and ranty. And then I just crash at the end of the evening. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to you all. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Thank you for everybody in the live chats. Thanks for keeping things lively. And like I said, I will see some of you who are interested tomorrow on J.L. Warren's. Go check that out if you can. And then my next one should be probably not Saturday. I'm going to try to do that Sunday show like I've been planning, but didn't get to, other than my my PineCreek rants from last week. So we'll see what we can do. So with that, take care, and I'm out of here. Have a good one.